don't know too much about Dodges. This is my first one.
Well, they're pretty stout.
What engine's in that cop car you got?
It's a 440 Interceptor.
Is that their biggest one, or is that a Hemi?
What originally was a Hemi, yeah. The original Hemi. The 440 Interceptor is what they called the. They made two different ones. They made a 383 and a 440.
Mm-hmm.
440 is what they put in the police cars. And the 440 was the motor would actually spin so fast and crank so much horsepower that it would actually outrun the oil pump.
Ooh. That's no good.
Yeah, they burned a bunch of them up. They put them in, they were Texas DPS cars too. DPS used them. And they started burning them up, realizing that the oil pumps wasn't able to keep up with them. I'm talking about a car that I got on the highway and threw the coal to it and took off. It's done 158 miles an hour in it. Street car.
Yeah.
But now, they had that, and then they had the Plymouth, the Barracuda. That's why you hear people talk about, wish they could find a Plymouth Barracuda.
You're right.
It's because they had that 383 ball stud Hemi.
The what Hemi?
A ball stud Hemi.
Boston?
Ball stud.
Ball stud.
Ball stud. When you looked in the top of the heads, where the rockers go.
Yeah.
Okay. Dodge, Plymouth Chrysler, Plymouth Dodge, their idea of the original roller rockers was they had rockers. They made little bitty ball studs that that were milled into the heads, and then the rocker would actually sit on the ball and roll back and forth on the ball. That's why they call them ball stud. That's why they call them ball stud Hemis.
So it was like
It was like having a roller-rized car.
But it was like part of the head. It wasn't.
Yeah,
It wasn't hydraulic or anything.
No.
Oh, so it was solid and
solid lifters. Yeah.
But then they were part of the head. They weren't adjustable or anything.
No, the ball stud is actually what the rocker set on. Instead of just a little round stud that it sits on with the spring, the rocker actually set in a little bitty with a little bitty ball underneath it, kind of like a ball.
Oh.
The stud that the rocker set on was actually a ball.
Oh, okay.
A metal ball, and they were polished, and that's what they called a ball stud Hemi. Of course, nobody had, the tappets. Nobody had rollers, but the fact that ball was a ball would make the rocker just float back and forth. So it actually increased a ball stud increased the horsepower about 10%.
Oh, you're there.
But you get a Barracuda. Get an early model Barracuda with a 383 in it. Man, you talking about you talking about showing up gangster. You talking about hot rods. You talking about a gangster hot rod. The Plymouth Barracuda you put like low profile 50s on the back of it. Mickey Thompson slicks on the back of it. Put it out on the strip. Run that sucker. And probably eat up almost anything you can put out there on it. Straight out of the box. Straight off
then?
Yeah, straight off the showroom floor. You're talking about a car that I've actually been in. My buddy owned one. We had the Plymouth, and my buddy had this Barracuda, and I've actually seen him downshift from fourth to second gear, running down the highway, catching a groove, laying 2 lines of black behind the wheels, and we're talking running 70 miles an hour. I've actually seen him downshift it to second gear, throw the coal to it, and burn rubber and go through 2 more gears, running 70 miles an hour down the road.
On you said on the slicks?
No, just regular street tires. Okay. Now the car after that was before he put the slicks on it. That was right after he got it from the dealer. He said, "Man, you gotta check this out. What's this?" And and the old Challengers would do the same thing too. The old 6-packs, what they call Super Bs. The 6-pack. The reason why they call them 6-packs, the Super Bs, the one that you see the trucks now that's got the yellow band on them, got the little B on there.
Yeah.
They call them Super Bs. The reason why they call them Super Bs, it was because they had 6-packs. Well, a 6-pack, you see, you're talking old school hot rod now.
Mm-hmm.
A 6-pack back then was 3. A 6-pack is 3 two-barrel carburetors sitting on top of it. That's called a 6-pack. That's where the Super Big come from. Because they come from the factory like that with a 6-pack, with actually a custom manifold and everything. But that's how they come from the factory. That's like the older model, old 442. You see the cars that's got the 442 on the side.
Yeah.
That's because the motor that was in it was a 442. I don't know if you've ever seen very many of them.
Oh yeah, my grandpa used to take me to Buick Oldsmobile Pontiac shows.
Okay, well the 442, that's because that was the engine displacement.
It was the displacement?
Yeah, when they called them old 442, see, there's a lot of that stuff along about that period of time. You're talking about the late 60s, early 70s. There's a lot of that stuff that was like the replacement form for the other. That's like, okay, when that's how Ford Mustangs got come alive. Okay, in 1962 Chevrolet started coming out with the smaller cars, trying to go to a smaller car. Well, there for a couple of years, they were going to a little bit smaller car, almost looked like a Rambler. It's kind of an ugly little old car. But anyway, but what it boiled down to is by the time it's all said and done, in 1964, they come up with the Camaro. Okay, right. Well, along about that period of time, the only thing that Ford had that was a small car that was equivalent to that was a Ford Falcon.
Mm-hmm.
The Falcon was the only small car that Ford made. Okay, long about 1964 and 65 is when you go back and look, and you can find little 2-door Falcons that had 300 horsepower motors in them. They got V8s in them. You see one every now. You go to a car show, you'll see one. The little Ford Falcon, ugly looking little car. You think, man, that's an ugly little car. You go over and crank it up.
Look nice.
You go over and crank it up, and you talking about a wife beater. Now those are awesome cars. Those are running little son of guns. But nobody, they wasn't a big draw. Nobody really wanted one. So then Ford redesigned the Falcon into what they then called the Ford Mustang, and a legend was born. And that was Ford's answer to Chevrolet Camaro. But now Chevrolet was answering Pontiac. When Chevrolet come out with the Camaro, Pontiac had already built the Firebird. They come out. They almost come out the same year. But Chevrolet's answer to the and I remember everybody standing around going, well, what? Because most of the time back in those days, they named cars after things and animals and shit like that. And I remember everybody going, what the hell is a Camaro? Mm-hmm. You know, what is it? Is it a plant, animal? What is it? Nobody knew. Just Camaro. So, but it's all kind of a crazy deal. Back then, it was big business for them to try to outdo one another more than it is nowadays, where they actually come out with the different kinds of cars. Nowadays, it's just a type of thing. Back then, it was a competition to see who could come out with the slickest ride. I remember the first time I ever saw a 500 GT. The first 500 GT fastback I ever saw was in 1969. The 500 GT. Because the next year, 70 was when they done that slope back. 70 was the year they done the 500 GT, what they call the three-window GT. Had the big back glass and had two small glasses inside. Mm-hmm. That's all it was. Now those are extremely rare. You find a 500, what they call a three-window 500. You talk about a car that's a rare car, because they put little bitty Landau windows right there by the back door post. It's kind of a Landau window. Is actually molded, actually built into the frame of the car.
You guys owe me.